Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
It's the Steve Wilkes Show. Now we just recorded my New Zealand Rye Wit, which was like less than 2% alcohol, and now we're switching gears. We're switching hemispheres and and switching gears. Not only are we not in the beer world anymore, we're not in the low alcohol anymore. What do we got going on here, Steve?
This is an apple wine.
Apple wine.
This might be the first wine that we've done on the show. I mean, I don't even know if we've ever done a wine before. Certainly not a fruit wine.
Now, how is it different from just a fermented apple cider?
Well, this has, so the easiest way for me to answer that is to talk about the recipe, maybe.
Okay.
So it started life out as 5 gallons of organic sweet cider that I purchased at the local Whole Paycheck. And that in itself would have been a nice cider and would have fermented out to have been about 6.5 or 7%, I think. But I was feeling my oats that day, and I cranked it up took a gallon of that cider, and I dissolved 8 pounds of corn sugar into it.
Oh.
And so this is 5 gallons of sweet apple cider with 8 pounds of dextrose.
Wow.
That's the fermentable. And that's all that's in it. And so that's what we've got. And that worked out to be, to give us a 15.8% product.
Wow.
Yeah. So I made it almost a year ago. I put it together actually early last February. I don't know what day exactly it was, but I just wrote down February 2020, but I remember that it was early in the month.
Ooh.
And yeah, what do you think?
It's good. It's not rocket fuel. It's well fermented. I can tell that it's got a lot of alcohol. I'm not sure that I could have told you that it was that much. No. There's still a lot of apple character in there. You got to give us the details on how you fermented it. What yeast did you use, and all the nutrition and all that kind of stuff.
I will. So this cider, before I go there, the cider is just now becoming what I think it should be. And I probably won't open another one of these maybe till summer, maybe till July, something like that. And I feel confident the apple flavor will come back even more. The alcohol will settle down even more. When I bottled this, it was pretty hot, but it has settled down tremendously. And I had a bottle of this. My wife and I shared a bottle, maybe a month ago, and it was very drinkable. It was very good. We certainly didn't pour any of it out, that's for sure. But I can notice today, just with this little sip that I've had, that it's getting better and better. So I'm really tickled with it. It doesn't have any weird flavors. It's not stressed. I don't taste anything stressed in it at all. So a little bit of the details. So again, it was laid down in February of 2020, and I used 2 packets or 10 grams of Saf Ale Safe cider, Saf cider. So I used this regular cider yeast. And what I did is I pitched the yeast on day 1, and I allowed it to work for maybe 3, maybe 4 days by itself. Then I went back in, and actually my notes say day 3. So on day 3, I pitched 3 teaspoons of pectic enzyme. Actually, take it back. The pectic enzyme I put in the day I pitched the yeast. So the pectic enzyme went in on day 1. But on day 3, I did 3 teaspoons of yeast energizer, which is a kind of a vitamin pack for the yeast. It's diammonium phosphate and magnesium sulfate and spring cell, yeast spring cells, which are basically dead cell bodies, and the yeast like to eat those up apparently. So it's that little vitamin pack plus, so 3 teaspoons of yeast energizer and 1/2 teaspoon of just straight diammonium phosphate. And I added that to the fermenter and stirred it in gently. And then I sealed it up, and I didn't touch it again for some months.
Wow.
Uh,
Well,
and
it's clear as a bell.
I did rack it into a secondary, and I did degas it when I did that. And so degassing is a technique for all you guys out there that just don't make wine or don't fool with degassing. It's just fine. You don't really have to. Things will degas on their own in time, but you can speed it up. You can buy a little tool from your homebrew store that it's kind of like a paint stirrer. It's the easiest way to do it. You can hook it on the end of your drill, and it'll just kind of spin, and it'll force the CO2 out of suspension, which is a good thing for wine and mead. It's a bad thing for beer, but you want to get as much of that CO2 out as quickly as possible, which will move your product along. I don't always do it. Sometimes I just don't fuss with it, especially if it's a small, like a 1 or 2 gallon batch. I don't mess with it. I don't find any great advantage. But in this one, I did, and it moved the product along a little quicker. That was when I racked it into the secondary. And then once it got in the secondary, I sealed it up again, and I left it until, I guess I would have bottled this not quite 2 months ago.
Huh.
And that's how long it's been in the bottle. Oh, and then along the way, I would say it must have been, it was about 6 weeks, and I didn't write the date down, but I had it on French oak for about 6 weeks.
Oh.
And what I used, and I don't know if you can see these, I hope you can. I'll cover my face with them because I don't have a very good camera. But these are these little spirals.
Right.
And you can get these at your local homebrew store. You can get them online. I carry them. Pretty much any store is going to have them. They're real handy. I like them because you can just drop one spiral or both spirals or half a spiral. You can kind of play around with them. I used one spiral of medium French oak into the 5-gallon container, and that gave it just a little bit of roundness, a little bit of structure that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
There's a lot of surface area on those spirals.
There's a lot. There really is. There's a lot of surface area, and these are a lot easier to work with than
the chips. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have any muss or fuss or anything like that. I like them a lot, and there's several different brands, and some of them are like long, skinny sticks, and I like those too. I just so happened that I had some of these, and so anyway, that's a really good way. Other brands will be little cubes, and those are pretty easy to work with too. I haven't used those myself, but I see them for sale, and I would think that those would be easy to use and a good way to get some oak onto your mead or your wine. Or your beer.
Now, did you do any stabilization, or did it do any clarifying stuff in there?
Well, I didn't do any fining of the wine itself. In other words, I didn't use any super clear or dual fine. There's a bunch of products like that. The 2-stage clarifiers. There are two different liquids. I didn't use any of that. I didn't use any sparkaloid. It cleared out on its own, really nicely. So I just let it. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah.
I did stabilize it, and I'm a big fan of doing this. I've got a lot of folks that don't like to do it. Some customers, and they're good friends. I mean, meaning we all don't have to make everything exactly alike. And the way I do it works, but somebody else can make better or equally as well, and it's okay. The way I do it, I like to stabilize my meads and wines when I make them because I like the shelf life that you get, and I like to be very certain that I don't get another fermentation in the bottle. And I just do it. I know a lot of guys just let it go until it's been so long in the fermenter that they feel comfortable that it's never going to ferment anymore. I don't have that comfort level. So,
do you recall did you say the starting and finishing gravities?
Not yet. The starting gravity was 1.119, and the finishing gravity was 0.998.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
There's a substantial amount of body to this, though. It's not super dry.
Well, I was going to say the other thing I did when I stabilized it. So let me kind of get back to that. So at bottling, or actually about a week before I bottled, I stabilized it using potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfite. So it's a two chemical process. I know some folks will just use the sorbate. I like to use both because they do different things and they protect you from different critters in a way. So the metabisulfite will also make sure that you don't get a malolactic fermentation. Not sure that that would have happened here, but you don't want that to happen generally inside the bottle, and then the potassium sorbate will, of course, make sure that the yeast won't reproduce anymore. Your commercial yeast that you used, or even if you did it with wild yeast, so that stabilizes the product in good shape. But you want to let that work for a while until that process is gone through. It needs to set for at least 12 hours. Really, a day or two is fine, and a week won't hurt. So about a week before I'm ready to bottle, I do that. Now, here's the thing on this one. At bottling, I did taste it the day of as I was getting ready to bottle it, and I ended up using 8 ounces of, I used 2 products. Oh, and one of them I don't have with me. I used 8 ounces of wine conditioner, which is a back sweetening product. And this is actually an inverted syrup that contains a little bit of potassium sorbate itself. Some people just use this to stabilize with, but I don't think it has enough sorbate in it. But this is a sweetener. I like it because it doesn't change the product. It doesn't add its own flavor. So, if you use honey or if you use fruit juice or table sugar, something like that, you're going to alter the flavor of your wine. This doesn't alter it. And then I also used about I didn't even write it down, but I used about 4 ounces. No, I used about 3 ounces of glycerin in it. White glycerin, which adds a little bit of body back in. And that added a little bit of mouthfeel back in, a little bit like you would use Carapils in a beer. Doesn't change anything. I did that at bottling. I just wanted to soften the body, round the body off a little bit. It was a very small amount in a 5-gallon batch.
I've been rounding my body off a little bit, but I blame the the quarantine.
That's right. So a little bit of glycerin, a couple ounces. I think I'm certain I used 3 ounces, and then I used 8 ounces of the wine conditioner. You can make your own simple syrup if you want. You don't have to buy a commercial product, but I own the store, so I use the commercial product. And that's it. That's the wine. Then I let it go until I felt like it was ready to bottle, and here we are today having a glass.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks great, and it tastes really good. I poured myself another half of a snifter here, but I've got one of your little gadgets with the vacuum sealer thing on it, so I'm gonna suck the oxygen out of there and put it back in the fridge, and I'm gonna save it for the holidays because I think that it'd be a good one to have just a little bit of this, with some pie.
Oh yeah.
I think that this would clear the palate after some turkey and gravy or something like that. It's just wonderful. And it's a long time in the making, and you've been talking. We've been talking about this ongoing process for a long time, and I've been really curious to taste it, and it's paid off. It's wonderful. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, awesome. I hope that everybody. I feel like I've been through a master class on apple winemaking.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's how I make it, and it seems to work pretty well. So there you go.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I'd buy that for $1. All right, this is amazing. It's a step beyond the traditional, just plain old apple cider.
Yeah, you can't really call it cider. I mean, it's a wine. It's so much stronger than just straight cider would be.
Mm-hmm.
And And the other thing about it too is that it's a whole lot cheaper than a mead of this strength would be, because corn sugar is a lot cheaper than honey.
Yeah.
So, but now to compare the two though, if you had made a mead this strong, I don't think it would be drinkable at all yet, and it would have cost a fortune.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know that it would be a more complex drink, but I don't know that it would be necessarily better.
Yeah.
So,
Well, congratulations.
thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, everybody.
Before I
We
finish
call
this off, I'm
sweet
gonna let's sign off and drink some more.
That's right.
All right, that's it. Hope y'all are having
Cheers.
a happy holiday season, the end of the year, and we'll see you next time. Happy brewing.
Happy brewing.
Come and visit us online. At basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. If you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, stop by Steve's Brew Shop or find him online at stevesbrewshop.com. Wow.
What do you think?
It's awesome. Glad I've got this counter to lean up against.